Okay, the next thing we're going to be talking about is a very interesting section of IMU called profiles. And profiles can be used for a couple of different things. And I'll tell you a little story about how profiles got into IMU and what they do. I had a client who's a club client who got IMU, and they said, hey, you know, this is pretty cool, but let me tell you a story. It says, we only operate 3 nights a week, and on each night there's a distinctly different clientele. He said, on one night it's a punk rock crowd, and I intend to operate IMU in the fully automatic mode, and there's not going to be any offensive words that it's really going to look for. Anything goes. He said, on another night it's a Christian crowd, and is going to be operated in a fully modern, fully manual mode. And in that mode, you got a very strict tolerance. So there's going to be a very long offensive words list and so forth. And then on the third night, I forget what the third night was specifically, but it's some sort of like middle of the road type thing. And he said, can I configure IMU to work for my 3 nights? And there was another aspect to this too. As I've shown a little earlier, you could use the user section of IMU to send out bulk text messages. Now, you wouldn't want to send some kind of a Christian, you know, the latest Christian rock band is playing tonight to the punk rock crowd. And likewise, you wouldn't want to send a message about Marilyn Manson playing tonight at this club to all your Christian rockers. And so he wanted to be able to configure the system and have 3 separate databases, basically. You need 3 separate user databases. You need 3 separate sets of rules on how you deal with offensive words and so forth. And he said, you know, it was our client who actually used the word profiles. Can I set the program up with these profiles? And I said, that's an interesting problem. We'll do some work on that. And so about a week later, we called him up and I said, I got the answer. I'm going to be sending you a new version of the program, and we've implemented the feature you wanted. And I said, guess what we called it? Profiles. So with that said, I'll show you exactly how you set up profiles and exactly how it works. Well, profiles can be used, of course, for what I just said, basically managing different nights on a club that might have different distinct clienteles, different distinct behaviors, and different distinct databases. But there's another use which I think I've found useful for mobile DJs. Now let's say you're a mobile DJ and you do weddings, parties, and so forth. But for the sake of archival purposes, you would like to be able to keep the database for each one of these separate occasions, just in case you had to refer back to it at some point in the future. You could use this database concept for that as well, this profile concept. That is, where each next gig you go to, you just set up a different profile. You can name the profile the client's name, so it helps you to keep them straight. And then each next time you want to activate that profile, you just click on it. It brings back the database. It brings back all of the other settings that you had. So without much further ado, let me show you exactly how that's done. What I've got here in IMU is I've got this rather sizable database of text messages that came in during the one particular event we did. And so what I'll do here, just for illustration purposes, we come up here in the settings. We say database profile. Right now there's only one profile. It's the default profile. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click add. And now let's say I'm going to do a party for John. I really like this guy. So I'm going to say John's party. And that's going to be this database. So that's how we add a profile. Pretty easy, right? Click add, give it a name. Now to activate the profile, we just click on it and say OK. Now if you were watching very carefully, what you noticed is all the messages just went to 0. If we take a look in the user database, all the users went to 0. The only users that are left here are basically some system-related users, and the modem itself, which is also kept in the user database. So now we can have some text messages come in. Let's say we'll simulate a couple of text messages. Hi, John. I just love that shirt you're wearing. So there we go. There's a text message. It comes in, went automatically right to the display queue, so forth. John's parties, nobody ever swears, so they can just be on fully automatic mode. Now, let's say next night comes in. It's the Christian night. I want to kind of down gear a little bit, go back into full manual mode. To access that other profile, all I have to do is come over here in Settings, Database Profile, click back on Default, OK. What we notice is all our messages came back, all our users came back, and so forth. So this profile is a really handy, very, very handy feature for keeping things distinctly separated. As I said, IMU keeps an audit trail in this database of every message that ever happens. And so one way for you to keep your databases clean and clear, if you ever want to kind of restore, start off with a fresh, clean slate, just start a new profile. Settings profile, call it new profile. Away we go. Add it, activate. Very, very simple. Very powerful though. That's what Profiles is all about.